An unfairly dismissed nurse was walking sadly down the street when she suddenly met a shabbily dressed man, twisted in pain. She had no idea how her life would change. I kindly ask you to listen until the end, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel, as your attention helps the channel grow and allows me to create new and interesting stories. Thank you. The morning light barely penetrated through the cracked blinds in Lisa's house. She slowly opened her eyes, feeling the weight of the impending workday. Her slender fingers instinctively found the alarm clock, whose hands were mercilessly approaching 6 o'clock in the morning. She got up, and the old floorboards creaked quietly under her bare feet. A quick shower, a simple white nurse's uniform, and dark hair gathered in a bun. The morning ritual was familiar to the point of pain. Lisa remembered her childhood in a small town in the Midwest. She knew her troubles began long before she came to the clinic. During her childhood, she was treated unfairly and hated, especially because of her limp. Kids often teased her, and her parents, burdened with their own problems, didn't pay proper attention to hers. Lisa often thought about how unfair the world was. Working as a nurse, she constantly recalled how she stayed afloat only because of her dreams of the future. When she lost her parents at the age of 17, she inherited an old house. The walls of this house had become almost like family to her, and she tried to make it cozy despite the harsh reality. "Never bow your head," her mother used to say, "and do your job conscientiously." These words became Lisa's life credo. In the clinic, she felt like she was walking on a minefield. The head doctor, Oliver, was a real nightmare for young employees. His gaze, sharp as a scalpel, was always ready to cut through any sign of disobedience or initiative. "Good morning, Lisa," came the familiar voice of Nancy, a nurse she had been working side by side with for several months. "Hi," Lisa replied tiredly as she made the bed with fresh linens in the ward. "We're in for a tough day," Nancy said in a lower voice. "Oliver is especially irritable today. I heard there's some kind of inspection coming up." Lisa remained silent, bottling up her emotions. She remembered her school years when she was teased for her poverty and old uniform, and recalled having to work after school to help her parents. Patients were a kaleidoscope of human destinies. Some quietly moaned in pain, some prayed for recovery, and some just waited for everything to end. Lisa tried to treat each one with the compassion that was so lacking in the cold hospital walls. By lunchtime, her state was at its limit. Constant tension, fear of the authorities, the monotony of hospital routines, it all felt like a heavy burden. During the break, she couldn't help but express her feelings to Nancy, her close friend. "I just don't understand why he treats me this way," Lisa said, looking at Nancy with desperation in her eyes. "I'm doing my job as best as I can, doing everything right." Nancy, who shared Lisa's joys and sorrows, looked at her sympathetically. "Not everyone can appreciate the work of others. Maybe Oliver just enjoys constantly being dissatisfied. You should just focus on your duties and ignore his words." Lisa nodded, but deep down she understood that hiding her feelings was very difficult. She couldn't understand why a person who was supposed to be her mentor was so harsh, disregarding her efforts. "Is this really all I was striving for?" Lisa thought, mopping the floor in the corridor. Her hands were calloused, her back ached from constant strain, but the internal fire didn't go out. The sound of muffled voices caught Lisa's attention, and she froze by the slightly open door of the head doctor's office, trying not to reveal her presence. "I beg you," a woman almost whispered, "my son is facing dismissal and prison. He drank and drove once, and now everything could fall apart." Oliver's voice sounded cold and calculated. "It will cost $500, no more, no less." Lisa felt a chill run through her. The woman handed over an envelope, her hands trembling. "Here's the money, please help my son." Lisa stepped back, trying to be silent. Her heart pounded so loudly that it seemed it could be heard in the corridor. She realized she was witnessing a crime, a forgery of an official document for a bribe. An internal conflict tormented her. On one hand, professional ethics demanded immediate action. On the other, the fear of losing her job and facing Oliver's wrath. What should I do? The thought raced through Lisa's mind. She saw the tears of the woman, the desperation in her eyes, and the smirk of the head doctor, who wasn't even trying to hide his greedy interest. This moment was like a point of no return. Lisa finally understood the true nature of the system she was working in. Nancy, noticing Lisa's strange condition, approached her. "What happened? You look scared." "It's nothing," Lisa mumbled. "Just tired." The rest of the day, Lisa was torn between the desire to do something and the fear of losing everything she had. Her hands trembled involuntarily when she changed the bed linen for patients, when she prepared medications. Oliver stared at her several times. By the end of the shift, she was firmly convinced of one thing. Silence made her an accomplice, but fear paralyzed her will. What would happen if she told the truth? Who would support her? Lisa felt a cold shiver run down her spine when Oliver watched her from his massive oak desk. The morning light penetrating through the blinds created sharp shadows, only intensifying the tension in the office. "I watched the surveillance cameras. You overheard my conversation yesterday." His voice was low and threatening, like the rumble of an approaching storm. Lisa clenched her fists, trying to stay calm. "I didn't mean to," she quietly replied. "I just overheard by accident." Oliver stood up sharply, his massive figure looming over Lisa. He laughed mockingly. "Do you understand that your actions could cost me my reputation, my career?" Inside Lisa, two feelings fought: fear of this powerful man and an unwavering desire to protect herself. "I'm not going to tell anyone," Lisa tried to reassure him, but Oliver had already made a decision. "Do it again, and you will be fired. I'll be closely watching you and your actions." Nancy, who was standing in the corridor, watched the scene with a mix of pity and admiration. She saw Lisa's bravery, but also knew the price of silence. Leaving the office, Lisa felt a mix of emotions, fear and anger, but deep inside, a glimmer of hope. On her way home, she reflected on what had happened. The evening park breathed with coolness, and passers-by hurried about their business. Lisa was walking, heavily carrying the conflict with Oliver, when she suddenly heard faint groaning among the trees. She noticed a man bent over in sharp pain. Her professional instinct kicked in instantly. Lisa approached, carefully examining the stranger. The man, around 40 years old, looked exhausted, his face pale. He was clutching his right side. "Do you need help?" Lisa asked, kneeling next to him. The man barely whispered, "Pain. Unbearable." Lisa quickly assessed the situation. Acute abdomen, sharp pain in the right upper quadrant, symptoms that required immediate medical intervention, possibly appendicitis or another serious complication. "I'm a nurse," she introduced herself. "My name is Lisa. I'll call an ambulance now." "I'm Sam," the man whispered. "No need for an ambulance. No money." His words sounded familiar. Lisa remembered many patients who were afraid of medical bills, but professional ethics were stronger than fear. "I'll help," she said firmly. "Don't worry with me around." Using the skills she had acquired over the years, her hands were familiar with human suffering, but each time she felt deep personal empathy. At the clinic, a familiar nurse, Nancy, greeted her. Seeing Lisa with a patient, she was surprised. "What's going on?" Lisa smiled. "Just doing what I should." The doctors quickly diagnosed acute appendicitis, and the surgery went well, thanks to the timely intervention. Oliver, the head doctor, was annoyed. "You brought a homeless man here. This is not a charity clinic." But Lisa stood her ground, her gaze speaking louder than words. She knew every life was important, regardless of social status. Sam awoke only a few hours later, a faint smile appearing on his haggard face. The gratitude in his eyes was sincere. The next morning, Lisa faced Oliver's fury once more. He didn't hide his anger, as he described her actions as unprofessional. "What were you thinking, bringing this man to the clinic? You're tarnishing our reputation," he shouted in her face, as if he was pouring his anger. "I saved his life," she said. "You're fired," he coldly pronounced. "As of today, your place in this clinic is taken." Lisa stood at the clinic's exit, clutching the dismissal notice. Oliver didn't give her a chance to explain. "For tarnishing the clinic's reputation," the official reason stated. But Lisa knew the real reason. Her principles and refusal to tolerate corruption were the last straw. The doctors grudgingly looked at the patient without documents, but Lisa's professionalism and persistence paid off. She literally forced them to examine the man, demonstrating rare mercy in the medical field. Stepping into the street, Lisa felt an unexpected relief. Years of fear and submission were behind her. Her hands no longer shook from constant tension, but gained strength and confidence. She recalled her mother's words, "Honesty is worth more than any money, my dear." A phone call interrupted her thoughts. The screen showed the number of the hospital where Sam was. "Lisa," came the voice of the nurse, "Sam is all right. The doctors say your timely intervention saved his life." Lisa felt warmth fill her. A single act of kindness and professionalism outweighed all the fears and threats. She decided to visit Sam at the hospital. Walking through the long corridors, Lisa found his room. Sam lay covered with a white blanket, his gaze fixed on the window. "Hello," Lisa said quietly. Sam turned. His eyes seemed to absorb every detail, exhaustion, determination. "You saved my life," he said, "and lost your job." "I don't regret it," Lisa firmly replied. "Sometimes you have to pay the price for the truth." A meaningful silence hung between them. Sam reached out, touching her hand. This simple gesture spoke louder than 1,000 words. Understanding, gratitude, a budding closeness. They talked a lot. Sam told her about his job as a driver, about his difficult life, about how he once nearly lost everything. Lisa listened, feeling an invisible thread of mutual understanding grow between them. "What will you do next?" Sam asked. Lisa smiled. "I'll start fresh," she replied, "and continue helping people as best as I can." The doctor said that Sam could be discharged in a few days. As she left the hospital, she felt her life changing. The dismissal was not an end, but a beginning. The beginning of something new, honest, and real. Lisa carefully opened the door of her small house, letting Sam in. After being discharged from the hospital, he looked tired but calm. She helped him settle on the old sofa that had belonged to her parents. Sam smiled gratefully, his eyes filled with warmth and gratitude. "Are you comfortable?" Lisa asked, adjusting the pillow. "More than comfortable," he replied. "I couldn't even dream of this after all that happened." The first days of living together were not easy. Neighbors were wary of the appearance of a stranger. "Do you understand what it means to take in a stranger?" one neighbor said one evening, shaking her head. "Who knows what might happen?" Lisa understood her neighbor's concern, but remained steadfast in her decision. She saw more than just a random person in Sam. Sam, feeling the tension, tried to be as helpful as possible. He helped around the house and cooked simple yet delicious meals when he wasn't working. One morning, the neighbor found Sam washing dishes and tidying up the kitchen. Her expression changed from wariness to surprise. "Well, would you look at that?" she mumbled. "I guess it's possible." Lisa noticed how the neighbor's attitude gradually changed. If before there was caution in her eyes, now there was understanding and trust. Changes were happening within Lisa as well. She felt the tension of the past months slowly dissipating. The dismissal from the clinic, once seen as a tragedy, now seemed more like liberation. Sam became her support, not just physically but emotionally as well. They talked a lot in the evenings, sharing stories of their lives. He spoke of the times when he wandered the streets and his dream of helping people, which he couldn't realize in the clinic. "You didn't give up," Sam said. "You helped me, which means your dream is alive." The neighbor, who once criticized Lisa, now shared her homemade pies with them and asked about their lives. Sam even helped her hang new curtains, for which he received a sincere thank you. One evening, when it had been quiet for a long time, the neighbor approached Lisa and said, "Everything will be fine." Lisa walked into the house, dropping the heavy bags to the floor. The house was suspiciously quiet. Sam was nowhere to be seen. Inside her, a wave of worry and strange premonition rose. "Sam!" she called, walking through the small room. Silence. Her heart pounded faster. Had he left? After everything between them, after those tender evenings, conversations, and shared plans. Lisa walked through the house, peering into the kitchen, the small bedroom, finding no trace. A strange mix of fear and deep internal emptiness engulfed her. Suddenly, the front door opened, and Sam appeared, holding several bags of groceries. "Hi," he smiled. "Sorry, I was at the neighbors. They asked for some help moving things." Lisa felt the tension within her suddenly dissipate. She approached him, and Sam noticed her worried expression. "What happened?" he asked. "I thought you left," Lisa admitted, "that you changed your mind about being with me." Sam gently hugged her, pulling her closer. His hands were rough but tender, conveying care and firmness at the same time. "How could I leave you?" he whispered, "after everything we've been through." They looked at each other for a long time. In Sam's eyes there was tenderness, in Lisa's gratitude and deep attachment. "I was helping the neighbors," Sam continued. "They're elderly. It's hard for them alone." "Emma says I'm like a son to her now," Lisa laughed. Her laughter was light, almost ringing. Over the past months, she had been through so much, suffered so much. Calm, warmth, care seemed almost unreal. "You know," she said, "I thought my work in the clinic was all I had. But now I have you." Sam gently kissed her hand. That special silence that speaks more than words arose between them. "I've wanted to ask you something for a long time," Sam said, pulling out a small box from his old jacket pocket. Lisa held her breath. Sam opened the box, revealing a simple but very beautiful engagement ring. "Will you marry me?" he said quietly but firmly. Tears of joy sparkled in Lisa's eyes. She understood that their story was not only about love, but also about overcoming difficulties, about how two lonely people found each other at the most challenging moment. Their wedding was modest, but filled with sincerity. Emma, who once criticized Lisa, now helped prepare the treats. Nancy, a former colleague from the clinic, assisted in organizing the wedding. "No one thought anything good would come of you, but you proved them wrong. Sam is a good man. It's obvious," she said. Even Oliver, finding out about her wedding, sent a short congratulations. Lisa took it as a silent acknowledgement of her rightness, a tacit apology for past humiliations. After the wedding, Sam got a job as an ambulance driver. They decided together to help people in the way they knew best. They had not only their personal life, but a shared dream to make the world a bit better. The dim light of the winter morning slowly filled the tiny room where Lisa and Sam slept, hugging. Sam was the first to feel the gentle trembling of Lisa's hand and gently stroked her hair. "Good morning," he whispered. "How are you?" Lisa raised her eyes, and Sam saw a special sparkle mixed with deep inner strength. She smiled and placed his hand on her stomach. "I have something to tell you," she said quietly. At that moment, Sam realized he was about to hear something important. He sat up, looking at Lisa attentively, and gently squeezing her hand. "I'm pregnant," Lisa exhaled. Sam was silent for a moment, processing the news. Then his face broke into such a sincere, wide smile that Lisa felt this moment would change their lives forever. A few months later, when Lisa's belly rounded, they often sat in the evenings, dreaming about the future, about how they would raise their child, what life awaited them. "The main thing is to be honest," Lisa said, stroking her stomach, "and not to be afraid to strive for better." Sam nodded, kissing her hand. Their story was not only about love, but about resilience, the ability to change and overcome circumstances. They watched the window as the first winter snowflakes slowly swirled, symbolizing a new beginning, the start of their shared, meaningful life. Did you enjoy this story? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to not miss new releases. See you soon.